a game of Russian roulette. You know, what are you going to get? You really just don't know. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. There's no adventure here today, no physical adventure anyway, but I wanted to go over the adventure that I had with getting the vaccine. I know that, you know, it's a big question. It's a very popular and taboo topic these days, whether or not to get the vaccine. People are either very strongly for it, very strongly against it. I want to talk about it specifically dealing with should people who are suffering from post-concussion syndrome or any sort of mild TBI, things like that, should they get the vaccine? What kind of, pros and cons are there? I'm no doctor. I really couldn't tell you what are the pros, what are the cons. I can only tell you about my experience. So that's what I'm going to do today. And I got the idea of this because on one of the Facebook groups that I'm on for post-concussion syndrome, some people were asking, others' thoughts on whether or not it was a good idea, if anyone had any, advice or experience with getting the vaccine while dealing with post-concussion syndrome. And I'm one of those people. So I figured I would just make a short little video, give my experience on what it was like for me. So let's hop right into it. In the beginning, I was very much on the fence on whether or not I was going to get the vaccine first of all, at all. At first I was like, I'm definitely not getting it. Then I was like, I don't know, maybe. I did a little bit of research, not too much. I talked to some of my friends who had already gotten it and asked them about their experience with that and how their coworkers felt. And a little bit at a time, I became a little bit more, at ease with it. And the place that I was working for at the time, we were among the first group of people who were allowed to get the vaccine or had it available to us anyway. So after much debate, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and they're offering it here, so I might as well just do it. The vaccine was about 1 month post my concussion. And at that time period, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of overthinking. And this really played a part into the anxiety that I was feeling about getting the vaccine in the first place. I really couldn't quiet my mind and really come to a decision. I felt very nervous, very uneasy about the whole thing. But I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. So I signed up and I went. Now, for me, the day that I went, and as we all know, dealing with post-concussion syndrome, one day you feel okay, the next day you feel like crap. So it's really just like a game of Russian roulette. What are you going to get? You really just don't know. The day that I went, I happened to have a really big flare-up with my symptoms. And then it didn't help that it was the very first day that they were doing vaccines there at work. And they had about 200 people who were signed up, and they were not prepared for that many people. So you signed up for a time slot, and it really didn't matter because we were forced to sit around for 2 hours and wait for our turn to get the vaccine. Now, I went back to my workplace that I hadn't been to in about a month. And so, of course, people were seeing me and they were coming up to me and they were talking to me and asking me what happened and, all this kind of stuff. There's people everywhere. There's bright lights. It was overstimulation to the max. And here I am just trying to hold my composure, hold it together, not let it affect me. I was having a difficult time even just filling out the basic information on the form that they want. I didn't even know what they were asking me. I was just like, man, my brain is just not working. So yeah, there was a lot of overstimulation for me right from the get-go. I already wasn't feeling well. Like I said, lights, noise, sound, people coming up to me, the whole waiting around. I was just in my head, and as each minute went by, my anxiety just grew and grew and grew. And so finally, it was my turn to get my shot. And in the moment, I had myself really worked up and I was just like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I'm going to die, whatever, because at that time frame, everything was elevated. Everything was heightened for me, right? And, it was like any like pain or ache that I felt, it was the absolute worst. I was gonna die. My body was basically in like survival mode because I had injured myself. And so like, I guess subconsciously it was like, protecting myself. I don't know. Anyway, so I got the shot and, they make you wait like 15 minutes afterwards and I'm feeling like tingly and I'm still in my head and I am like thirsty at this point. It's been 2 hours. They haven't offered anybody anything to drink. I'm like,
is there water around here? Can I get some water?
And so, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to distract myself by talking to like my coworkers and I just really wasn't feeling all that great, to be honest with you. I don't really know what it was or why. And honestly, I do think it was because my anxiety was already elevated, that, I wasn't feeling great. I was like, well, I was like waiting to drop down at any minute, but that's neither here nor there. So my coworker was like,
okay, I think 15 minutes passed, like we should be good to go.
and I was just like,
I don't think I can walk right now.
And, like I said, my own concussion symptoms were already elevated that day. So I was already feeling unsteady. Finally, I felt well enough to say, you know what, I had my girlfriend was waiting outside for me in the car and I was like, I'm good to go. I'm going to walk to the car. And that was that. So initially, not all that great. And is it going to be the same for everybody? I don't know. Is it circumstantial? Probably. I've heard from many other people and even the people who were there with me that day, and no one else seemed to have that same sort of, reaction. I honestly do believe it was because my symptoms were heightened and elevated that day that I was feeling it a little bit more. I was feeling a little bit more anxious about it. I was almost waiting for something to happen. And I think when you put yourself in that mindset right from the beginning, you sort of set yourself up for failure. Anyway, I really had no control over it at that time. Looking back now, I probably could have made it a little bit smoother for myself, but I really honestly had no control over it. So anyway, later on that night, I can't remember if it was that night or if it was the next day, but I did have some pretty bad side effects from it as well. And because I had already had COVID, it almost felt like I was like getting it all over again. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting sick again. I had the chills. I was like cold and then hot and a headache and body ache. And I think those were like the three main, like chills, body ache, headache, all that kind of stuff. So I was like sitting here with like a blanket wrapped around me and I was just like,
this is the worst,
But it really only lasted for a few hours. I think I took some Tylenol or something like that and I was good. The only other side effect was the soreness in the arm, which a lot of people tend to get wherever, the injection site was. It was sore. It was sort of like softball size sore. It was hard for me to like sleep on that side for a few nights. But other than that, all the other symptoms like the headache and the body chills and the aches and all that kind of stuff went away, I would say, within a few hours of the onset of them, let's say. So that was dose number 1. Obviously not a super fun experience for me and not all that enjoyable. I guess it could have been a lot worse, right? But like I said, I do believe it was circumstantial. Is everyone going to feel that way? No. Does it depend on how your symptoms flare up that day? Maybe. I don't really know. Now, the second dose it was night and day. And part of it, I was feeling a little off that day with my symptoms. So, I could have ended up in the same sort of predicament that I did in the first dose. However, I think I was a little bit more at ease because I knew what to expect this time. So going into the second dose, I tried to keep my anxiety at bay a little bit more. And again, this is only 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks. I forget what the time frame was between the first and second dose. But lost my train of thought. So yeah, the second dose, I went into it, tried to ease my anxiety a little bit more. And you know, my job their system was much better. So instead of waiting for 2 hours and sitting there, like having everything sort of marinating in my head, it was like, sign the paper, you're in, you're out, you wait your 15 minutes, which made that a lot smoother and a lot easier mentally and physically. Yeah, after the second shot, you know, I wasn't even sitting down afterwards. I sort of just stood there, was like leaning against the wall, was talking to my friend who drove me. And, you know, our 15-minute wait period was up. We went and we grabbed something to eat, and I went home, and I was okay. I did have some slight side effects, and they came on actually overnight. I had a really restless sleep that night, and that's when those side effects started to kick in. I was having, again, the body aches, the feeling of like the chills and like the sweats. And by that morning, all of that had sort of subsided and that went away. However, I did wake up with a really bad headache. I took a couple of ibuprofen, and within like an hour, the headache had gone away as well. And I didn't even have any arm soreness. I would say that the second shot definitely was much easier, a little bit smoother for me anyway, than the first one. So that's my experience with getting the vaccine while dealing with the concussion symptoms. You know, I don't really think that there's like a one size fits all for this, though. I really do think it's just on an individual basis, just like with anything else. I don't know of anybody else personally who has had the vaccine and also dealing with like post-concussion or like TBI or anything like that. So I don't have anything to base it off of. If you have had your vaccine shot and maybe you had a different or similar experience to myself, leave a comment down below. I'm curious to know how people dealt with the vaccine and dealing with the symptoms of the concussion at the same time. So, you know, because it's, you know, your brain. Yeah, I'm just curious to know how other people dealt with it. So yeah, anyway, that's my little experience and my little adventure, if you will, with getting the vaccine and dealing with my concussion symptoms at the same time. I know I'm probably due for that booster shot at some point coming up soon. I'm not really sure how that works, where I go or what the deal is, because I don't work there anymore. So I guess I'm on my own for that one. But yeah, so anyway, that's all I have for this episode. Like I said, drop a comment down below. Let me know how your experience went with getting the vaccine. If you didn't get the vaccine, why not? I'm not really like all for it or all against it. I'm kind of just like, you know what? I had the opportunity to get it. It could do good. You know, it helps to sort of prevent spreading it and for other people around me and things like that. I probably got it too soon anyway, honestly, because I had already had COVID in the beginning of December and I got my vaccine at the beginning of January. So I'm sure I still had like those antibodies. I don't really know how it works. I'm not a scientist or anything. So yeah, you know, it's just
it is what it is.
Anyway, so I hope this was useful information. Hopefully it helps somebody make a decision on whether or not they're going to get it. Like I said, circumstantial, my experience, not everyone's experience. This is just my story on how my vaccine experience went whilst dealing with post-concussion syndrome. I think that about does it for this episode. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you around next time with another adventure. See ya.